Hi, friends. Welcome to Race to Rise podcast, a place where we discuss bite sized wisdom nuggets with easy to follow practices to live a better life. I am your host, Mital Patel, a parenting junkie, Ayurveda enthusiast, and an advocate of conscious living. This the season to be jolly, la 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 la. I hope everyone is doing wonderful, and I hope that you all are ready to just, dive into this special time of the year. Wishing you all a very happy holidays. For those of you who are celebrating, extra joy and hugs your way. And for those of you who are not celebrating but still enjoying the season of that, the time of the year, I am sending you lots of joy. So everyone, today is our second last Friday of the year. And yes, it's not a holiday special episode, but I wanted to bring something where we can, shed lights on the darkness of our life and go towards the better one. Because when we know better, we do better. And so I'm bringing a candid conversation with a fellow parent who is super passionate about the work that she brings in and the impacts that she brings on the world. I am so excited to bring you Terri Huggins Hart. She is an award-winning journalist who lives in the constant state of an identity crisis. She's always deciding if she aligns more with her maiden name, which is Huggins, and her married name, which is Huggins Hart, at any given moment. Yes, she is so hilarious and at the same time, very wise person. Wait till you hear. I'm excited to share our conversation with you. She's actually excelled in following her calling of telling the stories that need to be told and evoking emotions that align with clear takeaways through her stories. And she is a beautiful mom and a beautiful writer. I love her writing. If we are going to share all the details, but make sure you subscribe, mainly make sure you subscribe to her monthly newsletter, because that's where she shares her, hack of living life with no regrets. And she has a big mantra of do what you love, give love, and lead with love and hopes. And so you'll learn to do the same by following her and subscribing her monthly newsletter. So without taking a further ado, let's welcome Terri Huggins Hart. Let's just call it by her married name and enjoy our conversation. Awesome. So first of all, I have to say thank you for, saying yes to me. And I didn't know that there are parents out there, who be like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to talk about this, the good, bad, and ugly of the parenthood.
Yeah. And, I think we don't talk about it enough, to be
No.
honest. And there's a lot of good and there's a whole lot of ugly.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And one thing I'm trying to be more conscious about lately, though, is telling people the ugly, but also following up that I do enjoy parenting. You know,
I love that.
I really do love being a parent. It's the lack of support that parents get that I don't enjoy.
Exactly. It's just parenthood. Yes, it's a very difficult, it is a difficult phase, but it also has its perks, and you actually relearn a lot of things that you kind of forgotten in the whole adulting and, in getting the degrees or, finding the job or in the career, or just in terms of adulting, we forget a lot of things that we knew as a child. And then when we have little kids around us, it's like, yeah, I remember how to play. Oh, I can do
Yes.
this. Right before 2020, I was studying during 2020, I was studying for coaching and to be a coach. And, there was a couple of reflections and it was all about childhood and stuff. And I said, man, I don't remember how to have fun. I don't think I know how to have fun and I just don't know how to play. It's just so hard. Yeah, it's a one thing that, I used to play with kids and that's a different story. But just me having fun. Like we forget so much in this whole journey of adulting. And then, with kids, it's like there was a point where, before 2020, I used to play because I thought it is my, also like a responsibility kind of a thing. Because I was working on my healing and dealing with my triggers and my traumas. And we were working through we were working through a stressful marriage and whatnot we were going through. And so finally, when we caught a breath, and I was like, wow, this is such a unique life, and we get to relearn things that we forgot about it. And so I have to say, like, I enjoy the parenthood and I enjoy, having fun with the kids. We have to say, like, moms like you who are sharing those words. And I loved your article, by the way. You're sharing the good and the ugly part of the parenthood in there, and that was amazing.
Yes. And, you talk about having fun. And I think it's because we got so caught up in everything having to like have a goal or a purpose.
Mm,
Like you
mm.
could do something just because it brings you joy. It doesn't have to be about, oh, making more money or getting further in your career or losing weight. Like you could read this book just because you like the book
Ah,
and color just because you want to color. Like sometimes it doesn't need to have a purpose other than just pure enjoyment, something you really learn from having kids.
that is so true. I have to say that just because we're in such an information era, things have become so much about purpose, so much
Yeah.
about goals, so much about chasing, so much about, just going after what's next. In fact, this morning, I actually, I was just sitting peacefully enjoying, like, I was eating my soaked almonds. And this is like true story. I'm eating my almonds and I'm like, for a second, the first thing that came in my head, because my kids were still getting ready and I was just sitting. So I was like, what's next? And I said, excuse me? No, I'm gonna just sit here and enjoy my almonds. And maybe, I'll plan out what's for today. Like how can I surprise kids today? What's the new affirmation that I can practice with them? And then how can I, maybe my next date that's gonna be on Friday with my husband. Like just because I want to do it. I like how you put it like it doesn't need a purpose. It's just because it brings me joy and I just want to do it. I love affirming. I love spending quality time with my husband and I love surprising my kids. I just love their expressions.
Yeah, it's so important. And one thing I know that helps me do it, or may help other people, because we know that we are deserving of fun. We
Oh,
are
for sure.
deserving of letting loose. But still, because of the guilt that surrounds being motherhood, it's sometimes hard to do that. So, what I ended up doing for myself and sometimes to others is like, think about it as a lesson for your children. Because if your kids see you having fun, that means when they grow up, they can have fun. Because let's be honest, our kids learn from what they see us doing, not from what we tell them. And a lot of the things that we struggle with now isn't because our parents didn't teach us, it's because our parents never showed us.
Mhm.
So sometimes I reframe it like that. I'm like, you know what? I want my kids to know that it is okay to continue having fun once they are done with school and in their life. So I'm going to make sure that I not only enjoy myself in front of them, but I laugh and I'm happy in front of them so they
Hey.
see that it's possible. I wish we didn't have to do that. But if you reframe it as, what are my kids learning from this?
Mhm.
Sometimes that helps you do what you need to for yourself
Mhm.
without guilt and without shame.
I love that you're bringing the element of guilt and shame because majority of the time, just because I'm a mom or just because I'm a dad now, there are so many things that I can't because I'm a mom. I have to prioritize X, Y, and Z because I'm a mom. And it's just like we forget ourselves and we think that we have to lose ourselves just because we had children. And so when, I love that you're bringing the point about, and I know that this is your favorite term, advocating for our kids. Like, do it for our kids. And so we won't feel the guilt about it. Like at the end of the day, we humans learn by living, not by listening, not by hearing the words, not, it's about that's how we learn. If we live it, if we see it, and they are living with us. So they see us doing it. So it's like modeling. And I say it that, it is a one thing to plant seeds and it is another thing to nurture and to water. And so
Yes.
I feel introducing gratitude or introducing certain rituals and the practices, taking care of ourselves is like planting a seed, but then we got to water it by modeling it, by doing it ourselves. So
Yes.
I take it as like a modeling the behavior that I want my kids to, learn from me as watering the seeds. Because our job doesn't just end as like, yeah, let me just plant the seeds and I'll wait when it sprouts. It doesn't work like that. We have to nurture the seeds that we planted. We have to water on a daily basis. So
Mhm.
why not take that analogy and like, change it towards our like, okay, when I model, I am actually watering the seeds that I'm, planting in them right now. And eventually, when it's time for them, it will grow without expectations. Just let's just do our thing and also live our life so they know that it is so okay to live our life. We don't have to lose ourselves for grades. We don't have to lose ourselves to participate in clubs. We don't have to, just because somebody else is doing extracurriculum activities, we got to do it. They don't have to do that. And like you mentioned, like, it's okay to have fun after school.
Yes.
What do you say? Like, what are your three top favorite thing that you are actually modeling for your kids? I'm curious.
Ooh, I like this. That's a really good question. Taking breaks,
Ooh,
speaking kindly to myself, and we'll say respecting privacy. Uh,
really, really love that.
and they all are important in their own way. So taking breaks, I feel like, and you may relate to this as well, but I feel like our parents worked so much, but yet they'd always tell us to take a break. But it's
Mm,
going to be hard for me as an adult to do that if I never saw my own mother do that or
mm,
my own father do it. So I'm really intentional about taking a break and not just taking a break, but I have two young boys and when I take a break, I also want my kids to see my husband doing things too. Because we have
mm-hmm,
a habit of doing a lot of like the labor when the kids go to sleep. I'm like, the kids need to know that this is how this household runs. We can't always, clean the kitchen when they go to sleep. The kids have to see this is what happens. And guess what? Your dad does it too. So when you grow up to become men, you're going to know that it's the norm for a man to clean the kitchen. It's things like that. And then speaking kindly to myself, this is one thing that my mother did instill in me, so I'm very fortunate. Back before it was a popular thing, my mom always told me that your mindset is what shapes your future. And that was like before even people talked about, reframing and mindset, like my mom was on it. So now it's like the trendy thing. And I'm like, y'all late. I've been there. But I speak kindly to myself, and I'll be honest, there are times that I slip up because, look, we're human, but it's important to teach your kids that you can speak kindly to yourself while also honoring your feelings, because everything is not always, "Oh, you're gonna get through it." You could say, "You know what? Today sucked, but I have the tools to make it better." You could recognize those feelings and still be hopeful and have that positivity. And, finally, when it comes to the privacy, I think my children seeing me respect their privacy just as much as I respect my privacy and not sharing everything is equally important. And we talk so much about building trust, but we don't really think about how that affects our children. Are you building your child's trust? When your child tells you something, are you going to tell all your siblings and their grandmother? Your children need to see that you are respecting their privacy this so they can continue to come to you. And they also have to see that you respect your own privacy. It is okay to not put everything on social media. That is fine. So those are the things that I want to teach my children, I model for them. And, I am a first generation American. My family is from Trinidad, and I was born here in New Jersey. While I absolutely love, what my parents did, and I have a good relationship with them, there are things that are culturally different. There are things that I struggled with in a sense. Privacy isn't necessarily a thing, at least in my culture. And that's not to say that my parents did anything wrong. Some of it is cultural. Some of it is just, it was a different time, but it's just something that I'm very conscious of and aware of now as I raise my own children.
I love the point that you're bringing about, what you like comparing what you've seen with your parents and what you have not seen with your parents and how culturally it's making an effect. In fact, yesterday I met a couple of my friends and we were just talking about it and it was all about she was saying back in the days, people used to take their kids for baptism and they had like a lot of rituals that, we would meet up at the church and those things we don't do that anymore. It's okay not to follow the rituals, but it's just there's no beauty of it and there's no connection anymore. And so I had a perspective and I was like, that's so true. And I think it's because the meaning got lost from transferring from one generation to another generation. Say, when you are passing on to a message, like I'm telling you something like, hey, can you tell this person? And you tell them the person. So you're telling the other person from what you understood from your perception, from your perspective. You probably had a different glasses worn, at that time. So you're transferring what you know. So I think even our parents and everything, like, how on the social media, like there's so much shaming our parents and, they did it what they knew better. And we also got to understand that our parents are coming from a survival culture. We are in a thriving culture, two different things. So back then, their priority was to survive, to meet the basic needs of getting the food. At least that's what I have seen in my household. That was our thing, like, providing the basic necessity, providing the food for the day. My
Right.
dad always worked. So I've seen that hustle culture with my dad always working. And I've seen also the mindset where my mom was a housewife. So I am coming from a background where they see women as a one who just raises the kids and who stays home, and men work outside so they don't do anything at home. Like, they don't do the house chores. My dad always did, which is a different thing, but it's just that's the culture I came from. And so I like what you're modeling. And in our household, we also have two boys, like, and so in our house, we prioritize on, if my husband doesn't feel good, if he wants to cry, he can cry. He cries. He'll say, that's it. I'm annoyed, or, I just had a very rough day. I'm trying to figure this out, but it is so hard. It is okay for men to say that too. So that is what our modeling happens in the house, that, we focus more on my husband to showcase his emotions with our kids so that they know that, as boy, it is completely okay when my older one cries. And if somebody says, it's okay, what are you crying about? Cry about it. You wanna cry about it? You go ahead and cry about it. I just
Mhm.
hate when someone tells them that, "Oh, it's okay. You don't need to cry about it. It's just such a small thing." No,
Mhm.
that's not so. And that's a one thing that, that we model in our household, like how you said, honor our feelings.
Yes.
That's and then of course be kind to, to yourself, to, to the people around you. And the second thing is we don't judge others for their choices. We're vegetarians for a long time and now we're practicing, being vegan and, we follow that. But
Great.
then when somebody else eats on the table, we're totally okay because that's the choice that that other human being has made. So no judgment, no shaming other people. So I think we need to like really, that's one of the things that I am modeling for my kids, that it is okay to make different choices. Everybody makes the choices according to their experiences, what
Yeah.
they know. When we know better, we do better. So our parents didn't have that support, their resources and that kind of a culture. Now we have it. So we can obviously do better for our kids. We can.
You know what? I mean, and I totally agree with that. I do. I think right now what our culture is doing, they're just operating from pain and they don't feel heard. As we talk about honoring their feelings, I actually just said this to somebody else. Parents of adult children do not need to say anymore that they did the best with what they had because we already know that. What we need to hear at this point is, I'm sorry for any unintentional pain that I have caused you. And that's it. That's what it's not necessarily about shaming our parents. We're hurt and we're still dealing with that. And that's not to say that our parents were bad parents. That's not to say that they didn't do a good job. That's not to say that they dropped the ball. It's just that, look, these are the things that were misunderstood in my life. These are the things that did not work. And this is what I need you to hear now. Mom and dad, I love you, but X, Y, and Z hurt my feelings. Don't tell me I did the best or you did the best that you could. Say, I'm sorry I hurt you. How can I help you now? And that's it. And that is where I think a lot of this whole seemingly bashing our parents thing came from on social media. It's not like a bash. We're hurt and we're not feeling heard. Part of that problem is, to your point, our parents came from a generation in which sorry was not said. Unfortunately, our generation, I wish we didn't have to, may need to accept that we may not get that apology and learn from the apology that we never got.
Ah,
But, you
I
know,
was actually gonna just gonna say when you said, then maybe they just need to say sorry, but then yeah, because they never learned, so it might not even come. For our generation, all we can do is just make the peace with our past and just move on. Like, cut the cords with the hurt, with the pain. Like, yeah, of course, we don't have to cut the cord with our parents, but, we can have a voice and we can talk to them with respect. I mean, I have done it. We still have ongoing thing, my mother-in-law lives, we all live together. And sometimes my parents come stay with us as well. And so when they're doing something, and if I don't think that that aligns with the way I want to parent my kids, I just say it like respectfully that I totally understand your intention is to, get them gifts, but we're just not going to do that. Or let's just not buy them things. It's not about buying things. You want to do something for them, you save the funds for their college. You give it to them when they're ready. Yeah, just make the peace and then just mention it when we have to, and that's about it. Like, just move on. I guess that's the best thing that we can do. That way we can focus on the current and our healing and our journey, and we can model for our kids and we can show them, hey, when you feel it, this is what we do. And so
exactly.
yeah, I really love, and I also love that, what you said about being kind to ourselves. And I can tell you that it was the hardest thing for me. And like how you just said that we're hurt, the life is like, things are painful, but sometimes we don't even acknowledge our pain. In fact, yesterday, I have a group coaching. And so I was talking with my, with the whole group when I was coaching, and I was sharing some concept. And in there somebody asked a question and I was like, for the longest period of my time, my life, I thought I did not have pain. And when I tell someone, when someone asks like, what's your story? When I say it, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I was like, sorry for what? I thought this is part of my life. I never took it as that, oh my gosh, that was a painful journey. It's so hard at least it was so hard for me to accept that my life was also painful at one point. It's just, we got so used to of the pain as well. And so being kind to myself was just so hard to me. So I like when, moms bring that up, like, okay, be kind to yourself. It also serves as a reminder for me, like, okay, I got to be kind to myself.
Yeah, it's hard. And you could even go back to, would you want your kids to do that? Like,
Right?
it's another way to reframe it and bring it about you. Cause I know as a mom, sometimes it really is hard to put it, for you to take your own advice. So you're like, okay, I tell my kids, People like to say, well, pretend you're your own best friend, and that doesn't even always hit the mark. What would you tell your child? Like,
I love that reframe. I honestly love it because yesterday, actually, just when we were having conversation with my friend, and one of the friends said that, I don't know what to say, and then the other one's like, so what would you say to your best friend? And you would tell them to rest and this, but I like what you're saying. Like, what would you tell to your kids? That because that hit differently. That
it
just hits you differently.
and realistically, unfortunately, we've learned that a lot of adults just don't have friends anymore, and I hate to say it. So, like, when we say the best friend thing, a lot of people can't even relate to that anymore. So
That is so true. I think you just hit the nail on my head. For longest period of my time, I didn't have friends.
mhm,
When I came to States, I thought, okay, this is my friend. And then when I got married, I moved on. It's just like, okay, now I don't have friends. And I was so isolated, just, college, home, husband, college. And once in a while we would go out. And then it took me so many years. And then finally, I found my inner circle of friends in 2018, and I just love them now. They're all overseas, but yes, so I can totally relate to that. I've been there, when somebody would say, like, I don't know where my friends are. Part of my friends are back in India because that's where I went to school. And then the friends who I went to college with couple years, they're all, in their own world. They're going back to India and whatnot. And then when I got married and I was still in college, I just never made friends because it was just so hard because everybody would wanted to go, out in clubs and, go parties. And I was not one of those. I wasn't drinking. So it was just so hard to make friends. Right. So if you told me this, back then, I would have like, what the heck? Like, I
mhm.
can't relate this. So I agree. A lot of people have that. And it's so unfortunate, and I guess it's just, the way the world has become. I think we need more friends, more networking, more connection. We're like striving for connection at the moment.
You really are, and, I think it's from a lot of different reasons. One, you have to ask yourself, did your parents ever model friendship in front of you? Have you ever seen your parents with friends? So that's part of it as we talk about modeling. There's the fact that everything is automated, which has its pros and cons. Because everything automated makes life easier in some ways, but at the same time, you don't have a need to ask your neighbor to borrow a cup of sugar because you could just Instacart it. It's a lot. And all of that affects how you treat yourself, how you relate to your family, what your kids are seeing. It's all part of one bigger problem.
I am just so loving our conversation. Like, I legit got my feet up and I'm like super comfortable and like, okay, talk to me. Like, when you just said, like, have you seen your parents? Like, dude, that is so true. I've never seen my mom. My mom only had one friend, and she was also like out of state, and they would only see each other like every 6 months, maybe that too. And I've never seen her going out with her friends. Never seen my dad hanging out like that. That's so true. It's just like,
Exactly. So that all lends to why our generation also has difficulty with friends. We weren't taught how to be a friend. It was never demonstrated by our family, by our parents. And not to mention, we came from a generation in which they still acted like the relationship that you cultivate is that between yourself and a spouse. Nobody talked about how it's important to have your own circle, how it's okay to have an identity outside of your spouse, outside of your family, especially, depending on your culture. It's all intertwined.
you're just telling the truth. And it's so important to hear these things. That's just so true. Like, because our parents were just so caught up. They didn't have the platform, they didn't have the support, like how you mentioned in the beginning. Like, I think it's just because they lack the support, and parenting gets even hard and gets ugly because first, yeah, lack the support, but the second is we don't ask for help.
Exactly.
It's because we also never saw our parents asking for help. And
Exactly.
so it's just so, like you said, it's so, everything's so intertwined because we never saw them demonstrating. We never saw them modeling for us. We live by experiencing things, right? So if we've never experienced what it's like, it's hard for us to initiate. It's hard for us to even, get into that, like, okay, is this for me? So I guess lesson number one, if listening, any one of you out there, parents, if you're listening to us, is the first thing is just ask for help, get that support and enjoy the parenthood, because without support, that's just not possible.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm going to add to that because not just ask for help, but know how to accept help
Oh,
also.
yes, let's do that.
There are a lot of people that offer help. And then let's say you may need the help, but because you can't pay them back or you can't do this, you decline it, even if you need the help.
That's funny that you just brought this point, because I was talking to someone again about recently, and I think that our problem is that we are so fixated with our assumptions. We assume that we're bothering them, or we assume that, oh, I don't want to be burdened, or we assume that it's possible that, they probably want to have back something from me, because we're so stuck in our assumptions that we forget what the fact is. The fact is, I'm not even accepting the help, first of all. If I accept it, then we can move on to the next step. Okay, what can I do for you in return? Or, whatever that looks like. So ask for help, accept when you get the help, and then forget about the assumptions. Don't assume things and don't make up things in our head, and look at the fact. The fact is that person wants to help you. The person, they want to support you. Why don't we just accept it? If we're taking anything out of this, that's probably like the first step, ask for help, get the, accept the support. And once you do that, you will, I'm not going to say that this is a, overnight happy moments and you're going to learn to be kind to yourself and you'll have some grace on yourself. It's definitely hard, but the practice, the more we practice, the better we get at it, and we improve our relationship with ourselves. And that actually reminds me, like, I also wanted to ask because, you are so much about rewiring and advocating, then always giving ourselves a perspective that, okay, what would I say to my child? Or, so in terms of, self-care, and I would love to hear your rewired perspective, because I know that for me, self love, self care, self acceptance, everything was so hard back then. And because I formed a belief about myself that I'm not lovable and I'm ugly because of my dark skin, whatever. I was bullied as kid. So I had all that stuck in my head. So it took me a long time to love myself. And so I want to ask for other parents who are having a hard time accepting themselves and loving themselves, and prioritizing caring for themselves. What would you say to them?
I tell people this a lot, and I just always like to remind them that the person that you were before you had a child matters too. And once you recognize that, it becomes easier for you to do things. I'm like, you had needs before you had children. You will continue to have needs after you have children. And if that's hard to recognize now, you got to start small. So maybe you need a spa day and that's too hard for you right now. How about you just honor the fact that you need to eat french fries on your own without sharing it with your children? Like sometimes you just got to start small, honor those small needs. And hopefully in time, you'll be able to honor those bigger ones too, like a night out if you can, or, a bath with the kids, not having to put the kids to sleep, the little things. And I think honoring those small needs is doable for a lot of people. Cause I think a lot of times when we talk about self care, we don't recognize the privilege that comes with it. I mean, recognizing self care is going to look different for somebody who was married, for somebody who was a single mother, for somebody who has a disabled child, for somebody who's unemployed. Self care is going to look different for all of those people. So, wherever it is that you are, start small. Maybe small for you is lunch, going out to your favorite restaurant for lunch. Or maybe small for you is just sleeping in an extra 5 minutes. Or it is, start there. Honor that that is your need. And you are deserving of that need now, just like you were deserving of honoring that need before you became a parent.
Yes, yes, I love that. I'm so glad that, that you're mentioning about the need before parent and after parent. It's just like we said earlier, we think just because I'm a parent, I have to lose myself, and we forget who we were before, and we forget what were my needs, what brought me joy back then, what made me fulfilled back then. We totally forget. We're just so focused on the being who chose us, but we also forget that if I don't do it, how is the child gonna see, and how is the child gonna learn? Right? And so it all ties again. Everything is so tied together that it's not possible, without one or the other. There is no this or that when it comes to parenting. It's always, it's maybe it's this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, it's just like there's so much that we can do, and there's so much that we can be. Right? We don't have to just be a mom, or I don't have to just be a dad, but I am myself. I am my identity. So whether that's honoring my needs, or maybe accepting my dream, or maybe, just maybe I just want to colors today, or it could be like starting your own business. And so from there, I actually want to ask you, because like I said before recording, that I love the way you choose your words. And I want to ask this question again because we didn't record before. So I asked Terry that she used to write poems before. She used to write poetry. And I asked, what made you stop writing poetry, Terry? So tell us, to our audience, what made you stop?
And like I said before, I really wish I could tell you. I mean, I don't even remember why I stopped. I think I just got a new interest and I followed it. However, I wouldn't mind revisiting and seeing if I still care to write poetry. If I do, then I'll continue with it. And if not, I'm like, all right, well, I tried.
No, I just want to connect the dot to the previous thing that we were talking about. Was writing poetry before being a parent or after being a
Oh, that
parent?
was before. I started writing poetry before, like,
And did you
even
stop
before I was
before as
married.
well?
Yeah, I stopped before I was married.
Okay.
So that was unrelated. I think I really just, that's a
Okay.
good one though. That's a good question. No, they were unrelated. I stopped before I even got married. So I think my interest just took a different path, but
All
who
right, we'll
knows?
let you go on that, Terry. Okay, fine, fine. I just wanted to bring that up, and I wanted to see, the coach in me was just like, okay, Terry, when did you stop and why did you stop? Was this before parenting, or, being a
Yeah,
mom, or was it after being a mom?
it was definitely before marriage and parenthood.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us about your writing interest, as a mom. How is that going? You are doing what you love. And so what are your views as a mom doing a business, or, following your dreams? So what are views about it? I would love to hear. I want to share my perspective, but I want to hear your perspective.
I think it's amazing. Here, my thing, I have always been a career oriented person and I absolutely love that. The fact that I am doing what I dreamt of my entire life is amazing. That being said, every mom doesn't dream about that. There is absolutely nothing wrong if a mother grows up and dreams of being a stay-at-home mom. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's also nothing wrong with a mom who also dreamt about having a career and then her dream changed and she decided to be a stay-at-home mom and then her dream changed again and she decided she wants to be an entrepreneur. What is that quote? I think it's like sometimes on the way to a dream you get lost and find a better one. I think that applies in so many aspects of our life, especially in parenthood. Even like when you have a kid, you sit there and you hope that, oh, I just hope my baby is healthy. I just hope I have a healthy baby. And then that changes, oh, I just hope my child passes this grade, or I just hope my child has a friend. Even that is an example of how those dreams change, like what you want for your child. But at the same time, we have to remember that We are not an extension of our children, and our children are not an extension of us. We are our own separate people, and we are allowed to honor those things in whatever way feels right for us, our children, your family, etc. So for me, I honor it by growing my writing practice, as a journalist, as a story strategist. I also am a fitness instructor, and I it brings me so much joy to recognize that I don't have to choose just one thing.
I love that. I actually, I want to take you back where when you said that, it's okay. Maybe I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom first, and then I decided to go back to, start a career, and then okay, career's not my thing. Let me go back to stay-at-home mom. We can choose again. This is our season of life. The way the season changes, the fall comes and then the winter comes and the spring comes and the same thing. We all have seasons of life and we do not have to stick with one thing. We're not trees. We're not trees that are so rooted in one spot that we can't move. We can choose again. We have, the new moment. Every single moment we have a new choice to make. We can make, work. And I think one of the things is like, the most important thing as humans we have is to make a new choice again. We get that. We get to make a new choice again. And it is like, it is our choice to do whatever. And so I love that you're following, your dreams. And I wanted to say the same thing, and that's why I felt like so connected with you right away. By the way, for all our listeners, this is our first time we're having conversations. Me and Terri, we've never met before. We never exchanged anything. We don't know anything about each other. We never did no social media, nothing. This was like we just wanted to have a conversation, and we decided we're going to record. And this is just like the beautiful, candid conversation I've ever had with another mother. I feel like, every time it's just like, I feel so connected with you. I think another reason I also feel connected because I always been a career oriented as well. And so as a young girl, I wanted to be a president of India, prime minister of India. And I wanted to do stage shows. I wanted and like I wanted to speak on stages and I wanted to do good for the world. And then my dreams changed. Like I wanted to be a teacher. And then it's just like, okay, now I'm going in science. So I started teaching in the science and whatnot. And then once finished studying, I graduated with the whole bachelor's, double major, biochemistry, molecularology, or whatnot. And then I decided to stay home. I stayed home. My son wasn't talking. He was already, it was already like 3.5 and he was still not talking. He was delayed. I was like, okay, that's it. The jobs that I was getting, they were far. And I said, no, for me, my child matters most. So my values were different at that point and, different things. I was in a different season of life. I decided to stay home with him. We had a business. So I was just helping out with my mother-in-law and my husband and taking care of my son. And then once he started kindergarten, I said, all right, I'm going to start new career. That's when I started my, career as a chemist. I got into, scientist, up level, the manager. And then I'm a manager, and, I'm serving as a manager in 2020. I was like, I'm going to do, I want to do coaching. All right. I got my part, I got my passion. Fine. I knew I love talking. So I started podcasting. And then I was like, oh, the coaching path seems to be my path. Then I became, then I studied and got training in coaching, and now I serve as coaches. But I'm also working as a quality assurance manager. So it's like I also have two jobs. I don't have to choose one or the other. I love what I do over there, and I love what I do from my little office right here. I get to make a difference in another parent's life, and I love it. I love to share the perspective. So it's just like we're not shaming anyone. You do you. Whatever works for you, you do you. If the career works for you, you do that. So whatever is your choice, it is your choice. Make sure it is your choice though. Don't acquire from the surrounding, from the society. Just we don't have to do just because somebody else is doing something. Do it because you want to and you deserve what you want to. You're worthy of whatever the dreams that you have or desires or the needs that you're worthy of your dreams. you're worthy of taking time for yourself, and you're worthy of going on vacations, or, the dreams that you have to achieve. That's why I felt connected. For me, it is also that I'm very transparent with my kids about my dreams and, my desires and, what I want to do as coach and things like that. And so it's like I'm also modeling for them, like, it's okay. It's okay to go after your dreams. You don't have to choose a route of, going to school and then going to college and then get a degree and then, going to corporate. You don't have to do that. You do whatever works for you. You can change the careers too. Up to you. Do whatever works for you. Right. And so I am also into modeling that, like, it is possible to work on your dreams. And, and so that hence, I started doing the coaching and, working with parents because I love to work with parents. I love to share the joy with them and I love to share the perspective. And, it just brings me immense fulfillment. And so thank you for sharing, Terry. I really appreciate. Before I let you go, though, I would love to ask you if there are any current projects that you're working on and where can the audience go and find you?
Sure. So one thing I am working on now, I'll preface by saying I am a journalist. I write for various publications like Good Housekeeping, Parents Magazine, New York Times, Washington Post, and I absolutely love it. The project that I'm working on is an extension of that. I'm actually now launching VIP days in which I help thought leaders, business owners, any experts learn how to craft a media pitch that can hopefully get them press at some point. That's what I'm now, working on. And I'm using my knowledge, my inside knowledge as a journalist to do it. Because a lot of people are just demystified by well, how do I get more media mentions? It is definitely one thing that I'm working on now, and I'm really excited about it. I'm on social media. My website is terrificwords.com, and my Instagram is Terrific Words. I'm on Twitter as Terrific Words, and on LinkedIn, I'm on there as Terri Huggins Hart.
And so we're going to share all these links and details in our show notes. So don't worry about if you didn't catch what we just mentioned. You'll have everything in the show notes and go and check out Terry. And yes, she does write terrific. I have to say that. I read your articles and I was like, man, she is sometimes, some people's words just like, because I am one of those person who goes right after the words, like, okay, where the words are taking me. And so I love your writing and the way you're bringing it up and all the preaching that you're doing about advocating for, just rewire it so you can start following it, because it is hard when we've not seen it and not experienced it. And so just rewire as if you're just doing it for your kids so that they can see and they can do the same because that's what we want, right? We want our kids to be happy, healthy, peaceful, you name it. That's everybody's dreams, right? We want our kids to be resilient. We want our kids to we want to empower our kids to make better choices. And so when we want all these for our kids, why don't we start living that ourselves so they can see it and, they can follow the same as well. I just have to say thank you, like a big fat thank you, Terry, for such an amazing, candid conversation that I would have never had and I would have had missed out on this. And I loved having conversation with you. And you're just an amazing soul. I'm glad to be connected with you.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I love having these conversations.
It's just like so fulfilling.
Yes, definitely.
That's it for this week's episode of Race to Rise. Be sure to sign up to our email list at risewithmittal.com and join us again next time for more wisdom about life, kids, and everything in between. I am Mittal Patel, wishing you happy raising and rising.